I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Wednesday, November the 17th, brought to you in part by EverAg Insurance Services, licensed in 44 states all over the country. They are professionals in several of your livestock policies, including your PFR, your pasture, forage, and range policies, which the deadline is coming up here at the end of the month. You guys need to get on top of that if you're wanting to insure against the lack of precipitation. Also professionals in dairy revenue protection and your LRP, your livestock risk protection. Get a hold of them. You can get a free LRP calculator to help you with your decision making there, but search for ever.ag. New beef slaughter capacity. We've talked about this ever since the worst of the COVID there a couple years ago when that come on. We started talking about that because we weren't able to keep beef on your shelves, and people were running out, and you couldn't get any your beef slaughtered because you were backed up maybe a year and a half, and we're still way backed up on that. But we've heard a lot of talk about that. We've seen some of your smaller locker type plants expand to the point where they're getting into some of your retail markets, and your major packers are not liking that very well. But we've heard a lot of investment in some bigger packing plants that are big enough to really make a difference. Now, I'm not saying they're going to be one of your big fours or anything like that, but significant regional type packers out there. We've heard several of them. Well, we've heard an announcement on Tuesday about another big plant that sounds like indeed is going to happen. It's going to happen in the state of Missouri, in Warren County, Missouri, which is in your greater St. Louis area. But American Food Groups has announced that they are planning on building a pretty major plant there. It would be 1,300 new jobs, a $450 million investment right in that area, and positive economic impact of as much as $1 billion. But American Food Groups is well established. It's an American-owned company. They've got a good reputation, and they're going to be coming into eastern Missouri there, and going to be buying. And it's mostly going to be cows, which is fine. We need some more slaughter capacity on our cows. Mostly going to be cows, but there's talk of them expanding into some slaughter animals, and maybe they'd be harvesting some heiferettes and things like that. But also getting into your slaughter steers and heifers. But it's going to be a major deal, and it's big news for the state of Missouri, which has been working for many years. You guys know that I've been in and around the state of Missouri, spent the bulk of my adult life in the state of Missouri. They've been looking for significant slaughter capacity to start in the state, and it looks like it's going to happen. It's not a deal whether we're going to try to raise money or anything like that. It's a done deal. They've got it. They've got their tax incentives, and they're ready to roll. But your AMI, North American NAMI, North American Meat Institute, has warned that it's going to be tough on these packers that are thinking about coming into the business. So we've got talk of a new plant coming on board in North Platte, Nebraska area. We haven't heard any new news about that for a while, but it sounds like they've put enough effort into it that something's going to happen there. We've heard talk and rumors about one opening up in the Texas Panhandle, and the money's there if they want to get that deal done. We've heard talk about one in northwest Iowa, which it sounds like that's a deal that's going to happen. So, but all those rumors, and like I said, your NAMI, which is your basically your trade associations for your packer mafia, they are warning and saying, I don't know if you guys want to do this or not. It's going to get tough sledding, and they're pretty much right. Tell you what, we have sold so many cows. We've slaughtered a lot of cows in the last couple of years. We have whittled this beef cow herd down to nothing almost. And if you just look at this year, your year-to-date beef slaughter is up 20% over the average of the last 5 years. That is major, guys. And that's the building process of future herds there, and we've really whittled them down to nearly nothing. Our beef heifer slaughter is up 11% over the average of the last 5 years. So, you know, those are the keepers that you keep for the cows, a lot of those. So we are going to have a hard time rebuilding this herd. And you guys that are thinking about keeping some replacement quality heifers, even though the price is pretty handsome on them, if you can afford to do it, you're probably going to be rewarded, because I would say as early as this coming spring, your bred heifers should be bringing big money. If you have pairs, younger pairs to sell, they could be bringing big money. I was talking with my good friend Ted Baum up in Nebraska on Tuesday, and he was talking about what he'd seen, and I'd seen it. A lot of you guys have seen it on social media about the record prices that we're seeing in Australia and New Zealand, places that have been going through you know, lifetime droughts. And they're bringing top prices for replacement stock there. We're seeing record prices for meat and cattle up in Canada, here in North America, and it's going to be tough sledding. Now we're probably going to add within the next 3 years quite a bit of slaughter capacity. What's that going to mean? Could be tough sledding for your big four out there, because they're not going to have it quite as sweet as they've had it here for the last several years. There's going to be more competition for the beef that's out there, for the live beef that's out there, and that's going to be good for your cattle producers. I know we've been talking about doomsday stuff, and we know that vertical integration is upon us, and that it is kind of tough sledding out there. But if we can get some of this going, and it looks like we're going to get, if we just get a portion of what's been talked about out there, it's going to be significant. And you know, it's going to be a boon for guys that have been able to stay in the cattle business. I know you guys have been bleeding equity for a long time, but if you think you can do it, you need to stay in business. And you know, as they've been selling a lot of cows, especially in the northern plains where it's been really dry, I talked to the market owners up there, and they're really worried whenever they see guys doing complete dispersals, selling out, and if these prices get as high as what we think they could be, you know, over $3,000 for some replacement type heifers that are bred. You know, it could sure be that, you know, maybe $3,500 or more for some pairs, you know, as early as maybe next spring. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it sure could happen. Then likely there's going to be some people that look at that opportunity and completely sell out. And that's kind of scary too, but we need to stay in this deal, because we could sure see a benefit, and a long-term benefit for your cattle business, and I can't tell you how exciting that is. Now, some other major news that come out on Tuesday is NCBA. What's gotten into them all of a sudden? They've decided to start supporting your cattle people, and not just the packers, but they've already said early this week or over the weekend, late last week maybe, that they are asking the Secretary of Ag to consider banning imports of fresh beef from Brazil because of the BSE cases in humans that they're investigating right there. And we know that they don't hold up to the same health standards that we do here in this country. So yeah, it's a good idea to start limiting that, but it's not going to make any friends with 2 of our 4 majors, which are based in Brazil. But NCBA is kind of standing up and doing that. Well, they come out with another press release, which is a letter from their president on Tuesday, and it's talking about the 75% of a robust voluntary market approach that they've announced here, since you know, we've all been asking for a minimum negotiated trade, because we know that we're not seeing enough negotiated trade for price discovery. Well, NCBA come out with this letter, and they were talking about how all this data has been looked at through a third party, which we know that we talked about that, and we know about all the triggers, and nobody can remember exactly how the trigger deal works, but you got to hit these minor triggers to hit a major trigger, and we've already had one major trigger hit within the second quarter of this year, because there's not enough negotiated cash trade. Well, we finally got the information back from the third quarter, and they did talk about what was the delays on that, and a lot of that because of the third party that was investigating that information that's coming back from mandatory price reporting with USDA. But in fact, in the third quarter, 3 minor triggers were tripped. because they haven't been seeing enough negotiated cash trade in your four major areas of the five area region, which we can't look at the smallest one, which is Colorado, because of confidentiality rules, and we need to work on that too. But those three minor triggers caused a major trigger to be tripped. And so now, if they do what they say they're going to do, they've got to do something about it. So now it's stated in that letter that NCBA will indeed pursue a legislative or regulatory solution to be determined by membership. So now we've got to have another meeting, which I know all this takes a long time, but indeed at their first opportunity, which is going to be in February at the NCBA convention that's going to be held in Houston, that they are going to have a meeting, and the subgroup is going to look at this, and they're going to encourage them to support a legislative or regulatory solution, which they said that they didn't really want to do. But, you know, yeah, we don't want the government involved in things, but the government is supposed to supply us with a level playing field, especially when we're dealing with a monopoly like the big four packers have on this beef industry. And I don't know why they should look any further than the Transparency Act, the Cattle Price Discovery and Transparency Act bill, which is bipartisan. That's the compromise between the 5014 Chuck Grassley and the Cattle Market Transparency Act of Deb Fischer. And now we've got some Democrats signed on, John Tester from Montana, and Ron Wyden from Oregon has signed on to that. It's got support, guys. If we don't fight it, it's likely going to get tagged on to mandatory price reporting's reapproval there, and it'll get through. So, you know, this would be the logical choice to make, is to look at that and get behind it with NCBA, which would be huge, which I think it's already going to go through, but that would just push it on in. And if RCAF doesn't fight it, and they haven't decided what they're going to do yet, but if they indeed don't fight it, your U.S. Cattlemen's Association has been a major champion of this compromise bill. They've been pushing it forward, and we're starting to get more people looking at U.S. Cattlemen's Association and thinking, hey, these guys are doing some positive things out here, and we need to get on board with them. But a lot of news came out on Tuesday. We don't always get a lot of news, but we sure did, and that's the biggest ones that I saw. Let's look at the board. For Tuesday, December, live cattle futures were down a nickel, 131.72. Your live cattle board still not doing a whole lot. February down 22 cents at 136.10. Go on your back months of live cattle, and they were mixed from down 27 cents to up 20, but really nothing. November feeder cattle, now the spot in November was down because it's starting to adjust with your index levels, which are having a hard time getting to those lofty levels because we just don't have many yearlings to push the market anymore, and those big calves are slipping in there. But November feeder cattle contracts down 27 cents at 155.65, but all the rest were higher. And why were they higher? Because the grain slipped back on Tuesday. December corn, Chicago Board of Trade was down 5.5 cents at 5.71, and our eye's been on the hard red winter wheat. Kansas City wheat contracts were down about 15 cents, but they're still over $8.20 a bushel, which is as high as anybody ever remembers them being. But you go on out on your November, or on your feeder cattle contracts. January was up 80 at 159.27. All the rest of the back months were up 37 cents to up $1.10. So that gives more support for our feeder cattle, and that's a good thing. Fat cattle trade has yet to really develop. We've seen a few odd sales in most of our major trading areas of the five-area feeding region, and they're all near steady, but we just haven't seen a whole lot. In some of those states, the mixed loads we're bringing more than just the straight steer and heifer loads, which just tell you they're just odd deals, and your packers are trying to pick up whatever they can to hang on the hooks because they're short bought. But we have yet to see the fat cattle market really take off on a direct basis, and maybe it will here on Wednesday. But had a major sale of fat cattle up in Yankton, South Dakota at Stockman's Livestock, and it was higher again, steady to $2 higher for the most part. Conventional cattle selling from 130 to 133 on your bigger bunches, with a few as high as 134 1/4. Now our drug-free, non-implant program type fat cattle that the packers are saying that they really want and they're going to give these fancy premiums for, they don't want to pay any more for them. Now the box beef cutout values are dipping down and the fat cattle market's getting higher, they indeed don't want to pay much more for them. They just want something to hang on the hooks. Just like I told you last week, they were buying plain cattle just as high as they were buying the best cattle at walk. But your non-implant drug-free cattle at Stockman's Livestock bring it from 130 to 134, which is basically about what the conventional cattle were bringing, but a few deals as high on those drug-free cattle up to 135 and a quarter. Talk about your box beef cutout values, and they were lower here on Tuesday to start the week out, or as we go through the week. But choice cuts down $1.07, 282.13. Selects down just 69 cents at 266.59. These have been so jacked up ever since COVID started that it's hard to gather that, and you think, oh, poor packers, the product they're getting paid for is going down and they're having to pay more for fat cattle. Yeah, right. Well, they expanded those margins so much that it's just now starting to get into reality, and they're still making plenty of money, guys. Don't worry about them. But your slaughter is running at a pretty good clip, 243,000, which is about the same as at this point last week, and more than the same week a year ago. Talk about what else is going on. Tonto Kasee has been a friend of mine for a long, long time. Now, his given name is Tom, but I always thought of Tom as his late father that was always a major stockholder there at Springfield Livestock Marketing Center, old commission man at Southwest Regional Stockyards in Springfield, Missouri. Tonto grew up in those stockyards. He's a part owner and the developer and kind of designer of the new facility at Springfield Livestock Marketing Center. But Tonto has been in the real estate business for 30 years or more, and kind of specializing in farm and ranch brokering, and he's got a crew there, Jason Bates and Jeff Ward, and they've got a lot of experience in the cattle business too. But they've got a new listing in Southwest Missouri, 2,600 acre cattle ranch there, the Triple C and Buckhead ranches there, if you guys know that area. But this is a really, really nice deal, and they've got it for sale there, got it listed. I mean, good fences all around the place, over 30 ponds around the place. They got top quality corrals, scales, commodity barns, shops, just everything that you would need to run an outfit like that, and probably fancier than what you need. Got two nice homes on the place. It'd be a cattleman's paradise if you guys are interested in something like that. And if I have a Feeder Flash gang member that can afford something like that, I'd like to know who they are, but I hope there is somebody out there that can do it. But go to TomKaseeRealEstate.com to get more information on that, or if you know somebody that might be interested in it. Talk about what your feeder cattle markets, and mentioning your Feeder Flash gang members. If you guys are in Missouri and you haven't been to and would like to go to a Feeder Flash gang rally, you've got opportunities here. I'm in Lebanon, Missouri. Going to be having a talk at Wall Street Cattle Company facilities there. But look into that. There's still a few empty spaces there. I think they were wanting you to RSVP already because they're giving a meal and everything. But going to be in Lebanon, Missouri on Thursday night. And then next week, right before Thanksgiving, going to be at the new sale barn, Wright County Livestock in Mount Grove, Missouri. And then right after Thanksgiving, going to be in Sedalia, Missouri. So there's plenty of opportunities for you guys to attend a Feeder Flash gang rally, and I hope to see you guys there. But your feeder markets on Tuesday, your real-time index on DV auction based on your 800-pound steers up through the middle 12 states. And this is fresh information, including Tuesday's sales. Late in the day on Tuesday at 154.06, and that was off about 18 cents from Monday's close. So still selling right in there, but getting a lot of calves up in there, and they're just not as attractive to the buyers. If you're looking for some true yearlings, talk to Roman Schooley at Bloomfield, Iowa. At the sale there on Wednesday today, they've got 20 straight loads of yearlings, and up there in that part of Iowa, they will be absolutely top quality, real yearlings if you guys are interested, and then get an order into Bloomfield, Iowa. But your Tuesday sales, some of your big markets, Ozarks Regional Stockyard, West Plains, Missouri, had about 3,500 head through the ring, another 325 on their in-house video they get with help from DV Auction, which that's one of their lighter video sales. They usually have more than that, but mostly calves in that part of the country this time of year. Steer calves are steady to $3 higher, heifer calves steady to $3 lower, but got a lot of quotes from around the region there. How about Beaver County Stockyards in Beaver, Oklahoma? I told you guys on Monday or early Tuesday morning that on their Tuesday sale they were going to have a bunch of 7-weight true yearlings off grass. Well, here's some of the loads, and then they bring from 164 1/4 to 169.50 on the eastern end of no man's land there, the Oklahoma Panhandle. How about North Platte Stockyards in North Platte, Nebraska? My good friend Kyle Lehman there, who I got to visit with last week, sold 55 head of 483-pound fancy steer calves at $196.50. That'd be a top quote. How about Welch Stockyards in Welch, Oklahoma? That's up in northeast Oklahoma there. 118 head, 598-pound, or same as 600-pound steers, bring $168.10. How about Atkinson Livestock Market, Atkinson, Nebraska? That's the old reliable on the yellow brick road there on Highway 20 in Nebraska. 90 head of 654-pound steers bring $176.50, but they all pale in comparison to Lolly Brothers Livestock Market, longtime DV Auction customer. They're in Macon, Missouri. And I tell you what, if they keep selling them in central Missouri like they have been this week, and they probably will going forward, because we're going to see a lot of fancy cattle, but it'll be long time wean coming through. But 36 Highway may take over as the yellow brick road if Highway 20 doesn't step up their game a little bit. But right there in Macon, Missouri at Lolly Brothers Livestock Market, your Zach Tran top quote for the day. They sold 60 head of 825-pound fancy yearling steers at $172 Iowa bound. And that's your feeder flash for Wednesday.